everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another Makers with Heart video hop. This month, the Makers with Heart are featuring their favorite products from the new catalogs. So I have chosen the stamp set called Holiday Banner along with the Christmas Florals embossing folder. It's really difficult to choose just one, and I really love pretty much everything in this catalog, but I'm going to show you how to make 4 cards using these products along with the collection of papers called Home for Christmas. Okay, so let's get started. First, I'm going to do some heat embossing with some gold embossing powder from Nuvo. And I've loaded some of the images into my MISTI, and I'm going to ink them up with some Versamark ink. And first I'm going to hit my White Daisy cardstock with some anti-static powder. And then I'll stamp out those images. And Versamark is a sticky ink that the embossing powder will stick to. So I've got my images stamped out, and then I'll sprinkle the embossing powder on it. This is called Gold Enchantment, and it has sparkles in it. It's really pretty. Make sure I've got all of the images completely covered. And then I'll heat it up with my heat tool. First I'll funnel all the powder, leftover powder, back into the jar, and then I'll heat it up with my heat tool and melt all of that embossing powder. So we have those images good to go. I'm going to make a whole bunch of images first. So that's one option, is the gold embossing. And then I get everything cleaned up and I'm going to do some stamping. So I'm going to stamp the same images out in Scarlet. And off camera, I've done a lot of stamping and die cutting. I'm just going to show you a couple of these. Okay, so these are stamped in Scarlet on White Daisy, and I'm going to color the images in with our new colored pencils from Colorista. I've got this sped up super fast, but I'm going to show you coloring just the first image. Just going to lay down some color in the various reds that are part of all of the different collections. If you get the bundle, you'll get all of these. And then I'm just going to layer in some darker, do a little detail coloring, and then I'm going to go over the whole image with some Gamsol. This is a mineral spirit, and it melts the wax that is in the pencil, and it moves the pigment around and smooths everything out and deepens the color. So it looks almost like watercolor, kind of, but it smooths everything out and makes it more intense and gets rid of all of those coloring lines. So I'm just going to go over everything and just blend the darker color. I'm going around the outside of the leaves first with the lighter color and then going over the darker color. And we'll do some of those holly berries, and then everything else I'll do off camera. I'll give you a closer look here. I love these colored pencils. They look so pretty. Okay, so off camera, I'll cut a whole bunch out with the coordinating die cuts. And there's holly leaves that I've colored in the different greens. And then I've stamped some on different colors of red. I've got candy apple and scarlet, and then I've also colored over them with the colored pencils. And I just have a whole bunch to choose from, so I can make lots of Christmas cards. Okay, so now I'm going to do the backgrounds, all right? So I have 4 pieces of White Daisy, cut at 4 by 5 1/4. So the first ones I'm going to just emboss the white. So I'm spritzing them with a light spray of water first. And I'm going to do 2 because when you're using a new embossing folder, sometimes the paper will crack and it gives a deeper emboss than you want. So it helps if you just do 2 for the first couple passes. All right, so I've got 2 white, and now I'm going to do some treatment to the other 2. All right, so I'm going to bring in my brayer and the first one is going to be Jade, and I'm just going to run color over this piece of white daisy. And you could use a piece of jade cardstock, but I like the unevenness and the different variations in the deepness of the color, if that's a word, deepness. Some are darker, some are lighter, and I kind of like the variations there. It's kind of cool looking. So just going over with a brayer. And underneath it, I have my Altenew sticky mat to keep my cardstock from moving around while I'm doing this. And then we'll just wipe everything down with the stamp chamois. Get cleaned up. And then I'm going to bring in some pine ink. And I'm going to add color to the debossed side of the embossing folder. So I'm adding color to the areas in between the images, so it's not going to be on the petals of the poinsettias or the various greenery. It's going to be the color that's in between. Okay, so I'm just running my brayer with pine ink over the whole panel of the debossed side of the embossing folder. Make sure I get a good coverage of color, and then I'm going to spritz ever so lightly with water, just a light mist, and then I'll place my panel of jade in the embossing folder and run it through, and check this out. Look at that. So the jade pops, and then in between you've got the darker color of pine. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with candy apple, but this time we're going to do the emboss side. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So I'm doing the same thing with candy apple and just creating a panel of various colors or layers of candy apple, not various colors, but various tones of the candy apple. And off camera we'll get cleaned up, and then I'm going to take my embossing folder, and this time I'm going to run color on the embossed side. So I'm going to use Scarlet, and you'll see in a second what's taking the color are the leaves of the poinsettia, and then the in between, the background, will still remain candy apple. So the leaves and the petals will be scarlet. Okay, hit it with a mist of water, and then we'll put our candy apple panel in. So basically we're running it upside down, and so we'll run that through. Okay, it's a little more difficult to see. I like the other with the color in between, but I wanted to try both. Okay, so let's make our first card. So we have all our backgrounds done, and we have all of our different flowers and petals to place on our card fronts. So I'm going to use the white and a strip of gold glitter paper, and I'm just kind of laying things out to arrange them just to see what I like and see what fits. So I've got some holly leaves and some berries, and just kind of placing things around before I start gluing. Okay, so I'm going to stamp on this banner, and the stamps that are part of this collection, they're curved, so they fit right in the space. First I thought I was going to stamp in black, but I thought that'd be a little boring, so I decided to bring in scarlet. And I'm going to stamp Joy to the World in those spaces on the banner. Okay, we'll get cleaned up, and then we can start assembling. So first, I'm going to add some sparkle to this embossed panel. So this is some shimmer spray from Go, and it's clear but sparkly. So I'm going to give it a couple of spritzes to that embossed panel. and then we can go ahead and start gluing everything together. So I'm just going to lay the panel down on my card base. So it has a white border, and then I've trimmed that gold glitter paper to 4 inches. We'll just start putting everything down with glue. So my poinsettias, I have layered them and added 2 extra layers of cardstock behind them, also with the berries. So they're more like chipboard. And still not quite sure. That seems a little crowded. Just going to do the poinsettia. So go ahead and glue that down. We'll set a block on it to make sure it sets up flat. And then I'm going to bring in some of these flatback pearls. And they're from, this calls for confetti. And these pearls are matte. And there's some really tiny ones in there. And I'm just going to put a whole cluster of pearls right in the center of that flower. And as many as I can fit. We'll get them glued down and then I'll give you some close-up shots. Okay, we'll call that one done. So pretty. Simple but pretty. Okay, let's do another one. This time we're going to use the red embossed one. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment on my banner in scarlet. And this one is going to say, "'Tis the season." There are several sentiments to choose from. I just pulled 2 for my 4 cards, but you can make lots. Okay, so the treatment that I'm going to add to this embossed piece is some of the Tim Holtz mica spray. This one is called Peppermint Stick. And I'm just going to do a nice fine mist just to give it some extra shimmer and sparkle. I wish the camera could pick up all that sparkle, but it's really stunning once you add all that sparkle to the panel. Okay, so we'll get that glued down. We'll start assembling. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a piece of this zip strip, and I've cut 4 inches, and then I'm going to cut it in half. So there's 2 pieces at 1/4 inch each. And I'm going to add this piece of Home for Christmas with the pine greenery. And then we'll add the 2 halves of the zip strip at the top and bottom. Okay, and then I'll start laying my pieces out. This time I'm going to pop that sentiment right in the middle there. I'm going to use some of the smaller poinsettias. And I'm just kind of playing with the different holly leaves and the berries just to see what I like before I start gluing. And again, I've layered the flowers with 2 layers of white cardstock underneath, so they're more like chipboard pieces, along with the berries. And it really does make a difference to add those extra pieces of cardstock. Gives them some lift and makes them a little more special, I think. Okay, so we have those down. And then I'm going to bring in some more flatback pearls. And these are in black. And just going to cluster some right in the center of the poinsettias. Just for a little added sparkle. Okay, that card's all finished. And here's a closer look. See some of that shimmer from that mica spray. Okay, now here's another idea. We're going to use that green panel. First, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to stamp Joy to the World in jade. And the banner was embossed in gold, just like the first flowers were. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my splat box, and this time I'm going to use Tim Holtz mica spray in Tree Lot. Give it a couple of spritzes. And then we're ready to go. So we can start building our card now. So we'll go ahead and add that panel to my card front. And it'll have a white border around it. And then I'm going to add this strip of Home for Christmas, the plaid paper. Such a pretty festive plaid. And I'll just kind of arrange things and see what I like. I think that looks good, so we'll just start gluing things down. I think this card is my favorite. Love that bright jade background. Okay, we'll get everything glued down, and then we'll add some pearls in the center of the poinsettia. And this time I'm going to use some gold ones. Trying to find the tiniest ones I can so I can cluster a whole bunch of them right in the center there. Okay, and then we'll take a closer look. So pretty. Once you have all these flowers stamped and colored in and cut out, you can make a whole bunch of cards. Just vary the backgrounds. Okay, last card. This time, instead of cutting out the banner, I'm going to put it down on a strip of white daisy. I'm trying to decide what color I want to use. So I'm going to stamp the banner in pine. And then I'll stamp the sentiment in candy apple. So I'm going to stamp out "'Tis the Season." And that whole panel is going to go on my card front. Okay, so this one I'm using the white background. So again, I'm going to bring some of that Sukaniko shimmer spray in. And it's clear, but really sparkly. Wish the camera could pick up all that sparkle. It's so pretty. Give it a couple spritzes. And then we're ready to start building our card. So with this green pattern paper, I'm going to cut 2 strips at 1/4 inch each. So they're 1/4 inch by 4 inches. And they are going to border that piece of white cardstock. So we'll go ahead and start gluing things down. So have you started your Christmas cards yet? This is my first bunch. I need to get going. lots of leftover supplies here. I can make more cards similar to these. Okay, so this time I'm going to use the flower that I stamped out on candy apple cardstock and colored. And we'll just kind of see what they look like and laying things out, deciding if I want to add more to it. Just kind of playing around with the design. It's too much with the berries. We're getting there. Okay. I think I like that, so I'll get everything glued down. We'll skip ahead in a second. And then we'll add some of those flat back pearls in the centers of the flowers. We'll skip ahead in a second. A little pop of sparkle there. Okay, and we'll call that one done. We'll have some close-up shots in a second. I'm going to bring in all 4 cards first. So pretty. And just with that white background, that embossing really makes an impact. So pretty. So make sure you click on the playlist at the end of this video to see all of the other Makers with Heart videos and see what their favorite products are from the new catalogs. I'll have that playlist, and then I'll also have a link in the description below. I'll put a link for all the products that I used for these cards in the description below. You can do a little shopping. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And then you'll be able to find all of my videos. And thanks for watching.